How do you exactly find the right co-founder?
The first step of the process is this someone that I could spend 12 hours a day with for the next 12 years? Do I align with his ethic? Even if we don't have the same exact morals, can I respect those morals? I wouldn't say that our strength prefers strategy. I think that we're great executors and we listen to customers well, but we're not very strategic or high-level thinkers. We basically make decisions based on if customers are asking for it or not.
What is the game that you're playing on LinkedIn here?
Yeah, it's all sales. I wasn't planning on posting ever on LinkedIn until I realized that every time I put a post out, I would get inbound. And then almost all of our sales come through LinkedIn.
What do you think is the toughest job for you right now?
Yeah, I think management would be the toughest job for me if I gave it the time that it deserves. Mm-hmm. I'm honestly not. And I would consider myself more of an external CEO.
What is the most counterintuitive lesson you have learned about growth on a budget?
Counterintuitive things that I've learned about marketing is you can study trends and you can study what's happening online all you want, but it does come down to a significant amount of luck. And a lot of it is random about what goes viral. You can learn what gives you the best chance of luck, but at the end of the day, a lot of time it is luck.
Welcome to our podcast. Today, we are joined by Jake, co-founder and CEO of Preferred, a company rethinking how coffee is made without coffee beans. Climate change is threatening coffee production, with half of today's coffee growing land at risk by 2050, while demand is set to skyrocket. Preferred is on a mission to solve this problem before it's too late. In this conversation, Jake shares the journey behind Preferred, the challenges of creating a new kind of coffee, and what it takes to get people to embrace the future of coffee. We also dive into his approach to finding the right co-founder, building a team that fits his vision, and his secret playbook for crafting LinkedIn content that effortlessly attracts business on autopilot. Let's get into it. Hey Jake, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the podcast.
Pleasure.
For those who don't know, Jake is the co-founder and CEO of Preferred, a coffee company that makes coffee without coffee bean to help coffee companies reduce costs and fix the climate change. So they are backed by top investors like Forge Ventures and Founder Globals and other top VC as well. And after raising 2 million seed funding, February 2024, Preferred now is on a mission to future-proof coffee from the impacts of climate change by making bean-free coffee. Awesome, man. Love the stuff that you are doing here.
Appreciate you.
Yeah. So before we start, right, just to give us some intro about your story to our listeners here, could you maybe share more about your background, the founder's story, and your journey of building Preferred?
Yeah, so I come from a background of a family of entrepreneurs. I grew up in Texas. My dad is an entrepreneur. My 3 older brothers, entrepreneurs in their own right. And so, yeah, it's just sort of part of the blood, I guess. So I basically grew up around the entrepreneurship environment, and I studied neuroscience in my college years. So I was recruited to play college tennis at a school in LA. And that's basically where I sort of fell in love with science. I wasn't a great student growing up, but when I got to college, I was around a lot of really smart individuals and learned how important it is to be around, basically just how important your surroundings are and who you end up becoming as a person. So yeah, I ended up spending a lot of time in the library studying neuroscience, which led me to get a job offer by a biotech company in Tel Aviv, where I was employee number 5, where I basically just helped this medical device company run their clinical trials. It was a great experience learning how to, basically just how startups work, especially in an industry that I found was my real passion, neuroscience, and combining that with startups, that was sort of the great intersection for me. So yeah, and after a while of working there, ended up pivoting to become a venture capitalist in basically investing in sustainable food technology. And that's where I really fell in love with how can we create a more affordable, more sustainable, more nutritious food system. And all it really is, it wasn't that much of a pivot. It was really just using my learnings in biotech, but specifically in food. And so, yeah, that was why I ended up making that choice. And about 3 years ago, moved to Singapore to basically come in and scout for startups here in the region, and ended up getting into a startup accelerator, which you were a part of as well, Entrepreneur First. And I met my co-founder, and the rest is the history of Preferred.
You're awesome, man. I believe my cohort was after your cohort, right? Or before? I forgot.
We were the last cohort, so you were before us.
Oh, wait. So you were SG 11, I suppose?
I was 12. You actually came to
12.
come speak to my cohort, like our first week. I remember you
Did
coming
I?
to speak. Yeah, it was you and
Really?
JT. Yeah, I remember you to come and talk about it.
Did
Yeah, I was in the
Fred
crowd. Fred was probably there. I don't know. I just remember seeing you speaking to me. I was like, damn, this guy's so cool. Like, I want to start a company. But yeah, it feels like so
it's
long
a
ago.
physical event. Is it a physical event?
You came to our like co-working space and you came to give us
I remember. Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, what a journey, man. I didn't recall that I saw you there, but like, wow, it was a full circle there.
I was quiet, I didn't come up to you afterwards. I just remember you speaking to us. I was in the crowd.
Yeah. Well, what a journey. Cool. You mentioned you met DJ, right? At the incubator program, Entrepreneur First back then. Because I also joined EF, right? And the feeling that I got back then was, wow, there's so many highly talented people in the program, and everyone's like looking for co-founder. How do you exactly find the right co-founder, and how do you know that DJ was the right fit to you? Because you could try a few different people and then see which one was the best fit. Like, how do you know DJ was the one?
Yeah, so we thought about it in sort of a two-step process, and one must come before the other. And the first step of the process is this someone that I could spend 12 hours a day with for the next 12 years? Do I align with his ethics? Do we, and even if we don't have the same exact morals, like, can I respect those morals? Like, is this someone that like I would just be able to spend a lot of time with? Because if it all goes according to plan, you're going to be spending a lot of time with them, and you're going to have to make some calls, some ethics calls, where there's red pill and there's a blue pill, and you kind of got to align on it. So that was really important to find that in a co-founder, and DJ and I, we pretty quickly clicked on a personal level. Secondly was we both just so happened to share the belief that fermentation as a technology has all these benefits that's being very undervalued, especially in using it to create flavors, and especially to create flavors where they may be under threat, or they may be getting more expensive, or they may be contributing to a high carbon footprint. So that's sort of where the idea of Prefer came from. That's where we looked into different problems in the industry and saw that coffee and chocolate were really under threat in particular. And so we brought my background being a VC and understanding market trends and technologies coming out in food and beverage. I was going to handle more of the commercial side, and DJ coming from his extensive R&D and deep food technology background had the ability to go and build out the actual tech, the actual product. So yeah, that's where we started.
Lovely. And DJ was the first, I believe, the first co-founder that you formed a team with at EF, is that?
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
Formally.
Awesome. Cool. Okay, when you guys, brainstorm around the ideas or food tech ideas or the problem space to solve back then, when you landed on this coffee or chocolate space, how do you guys actually go out and validate whether this is real or this is a real problem?
It's the classic EF or YC strategy where you just go and speak to as many people in the industry as possible and see if it's a real problem. And what we learned quite quickly was that, yes, the price of coffee is going up quite dramatically. No, sustainability is not a value proposition, but if we can make a product that tastes just like coffee but is more affordable, then people would buy that. That thesis and that customer research gave us enough confidence to go and build a product out. And we used that product to get enough traction to raise the pre-seed from Entrepreneur First.
When you were doing the customers interview, did you already have like a MVP product that showed them the taste, something like that, or more of like conversational style?
Not for the first 50 or so. And then once we built up enough conviction of this idea around creating alternatives to coffee and chocolate, we went out and actually built the product. And DJ was able to come out with a first prototype in a couple of weeks from his kitchen. It tasted really bad, but it was something at least to show them and sort of bring it to life a little bit.
Right. I mean, just trying to step back a bit, right? Because we are trying to say that you are basically building this coffee company without using coffee bean. What does it matter? Like, what exactly is the problem that you're trying to solve here? And why can't, baristas or cafe restaurants, they just use whatever coffee beans that they are using, right? Because I suppose that getting them to switch to a different product and sell this to the existing customer might be a bit of a high barrier. I'm just curious, like, why does it matter? Yeah.
So the problem that we're solving is that coffee's price is at an all-time high. And not by a little bit, by a lot. And so that's really putting pressure on the industry.
Like how much?
Right now, I believe, and this is all very Googleable, if you just go look at the commodity price of coffee, but both Arabica and Robusta coffee are at all-time high, quite significantly. I won't say the numbers just so I don't get quoted, but it's a new paradigm that the industry has not seen before is these prices. And so people are looking for solutions to decrease costs however they can. And so that's where we can come in to help, is providing them with a more affordable and a more sustainable coffee ingredient. And our main customers are not the baristas or the coffee shops, like specialty coffee. That's like a very small portion of the actual industry that's not actually feeling the pain as much as like the mass market instant coffee brands or the ready to drink coffee brands or the mass ingredient distributors that are selling into the Starbucks and Luckin coffees of the world. That's where we can really come in to help them, because they are feeling the pain of the rising cost of the commodity, and we can be more affordable even than the most affordable commodity of coffee in the world.
Right, got it. So I suppose your target audience now are mostly the big coffee chain guys.
It's more like coffee consumer packaged good companies or FMCGs that have the instant coffee or the ready to drink. Even mass market coffee chains, people still will buy coffee at a premium per se for the experience of going to a coffee shop. The people that are buying the instant coffee and cans in a convenience store, they're really just focused on taste and price, and that's where we can come in to help.
Right. And back then when you guys started doing the R&D part, because I saw somewhere you mentioned that you and DJ basically started at his house kitchen for the R&D part for like 6 months. What was the hardest part, about scaling from this DIY experiments to a commercial facility to like scale this up?
Just to answer your question directly, the hardest part about scaling up this operations is at each level of scale and fermentation, you have to slightly tweak it to create the flavors that you were making before. So it just means that it's more trial and error with every step as we go. Luckily now we have a bunch of data, and so we have a lot of trial and errors under our belt, so we're getting better and better at this over time. But yeah, I think that is with any company that is scaling something physical, anything where hardware is involved. At every level of scale, you have to tweak it slightly. Every time you increase 10x on the fermentation tanks, 10x on the roasters, you're going to have to change the parameters slightly. So that's something that it's not trivial, but it can be done, and we're doing it now.
Okay, I know that this may sound like a stupid question, because when you guys are scaling, let's say to a commercial facility, you mentioned, the hardware, the tank size, all these are different. How do you have an objective view of knowing that the flavor wouldn't change when you scale to, commercial facility? Like, how is there a way to even quantify the flavor such that when you scale up, you make sure that it stay consistent?
Yes. So there's two ways that we can be sure that we're making the right flavors, the flavors that we're targeting. One is we have an incredible team of R&D scientists that come from the most well-renowned flavor house institutions globally, and they just have incredible instinct and sensory analysis naturally. That's one. B is that we have access to basically equipment that allows us to see aroma volatiles that are being created from our process and flavor molecules as well. So yeah, that is sort of the more data-driven way to see it. But the reality is that the best feedback that we're getting is from sensory evaluation from customers. So when we send them, they are saying this tastes like XYZ, and this is either slightly different from last time or it's the same as last time, and that's how we can basically tell whether we're making the flavors that we're targeting and how consistently we're able to make it.
Right. And when you say customers, do you mean the B2B customers or the end customers that drink prefer?
B2B customers. Our customers are FMCGs, ingredient companies, and coffee chains. We're a B2B company. We do have our own ready-to-drink oat latte, and that's great. And it is not really the value of the business, but it is serving as lead generation for more B2B buyers, because they see that our brand is gaining traction and they want to be a part of that growing demand.
Yeah, I still remember the first time I told you, right? I sent you the picture when I went to Google for a meetup, and I saw like you guys had I saw in the fridge there was this prefer, I think latte flavor or something, I forgot, which tasted really good, to be honest. Like I took it and I just shared it with the people that I was meeting back then, and it's interesting that customers like Google or corporates, they were also trying to get into the sustainability part by getting the coffees, from you guys. I'm just out of curiosity, like you mentioned your business model is B2B customers. Like, how do you make money from that? Is that a one-time sell or is it a subscription model, or how does it work?
Yeah, so we actually one of two ways. One is a classic vendor-supplier relationship where we would provide an ingredient for them on a recurring basis, whether that's once a month or once a quarter, based on how much they need for their products. That's one. Two, and this is where the company is going and where we're getting even more interest from B2B partners, is to license our IP, license our technology to them, where they manufacture it themselves and we take a royalty fee based on their sales. And that's very well known in food and beverage, where FMCGs will license technology from startups that they would then scale up. And so that allows us to access a CapEx light model and sort of piggyback on their distribution. And for them, they get to make it at cost and they get to scale up as quickly as they want without relying on our scale. So it's we're finding that is getting really great traction right now, and it's a big win-win.
Got it. Oh, interesting. The licensing to the customer's royalty base. How does that work? Does that mean they will just take the steps, the workflow SOP, basically the recipe, and then you just go to the manufacturer and say, hey, this is the stuff they want to manufacture. Can you just do it for me? And then, once they manufacture that and then they sell to the distribution, for every sale that they make, you take a cut.
You said it well. Yeah, that's pretty much it. If I were to say it in my own words, basically, we teach them how to do it and keep key ingredients and microbes a black box that they would not know. And then based on their sales, we would take a revenue share.
Okay, so in that case, you don't need to incur all the HIPEX or the other costs. You just have to sell them the IP. Is that something that you are already working on with Singapore customers, or something that you are doing this overseas?
Not particular to Singapore companies, but we are working on negotiations of a IP licensing term sheet with multiple different parties in a few different countries in the region.
Right. So this will be the focus for you guys this year? One
of them. I think that in the long run, accessing the IP licensing model is the way that we become $1 billion business in the next 5 to 7 years. It allows us to scale globally and with larger companies without having to rely on raising a bunch of venture capital or debt to sort of achieve that. So it seems, and the reason that we're focusing on it is because customers are requesting it. We say that we have X amount of scale here in Singapore, and they say, that's great. Can you make that in an hour? And we're like, no, that takes us a month. And so just our scale and the scale that they need is not matching. By licensing our technology, it allows them to scale it up as quickly as they want.
Does this apply to the B2B customers that already have their own manufacturing line?
Yes, our B2B customers, like I mentioned, they're FMCGs, so they are manufacturing experts. They're ingredient companies, manufacturing experts. Coffee chains, they would likely just buy the ingredient, but more coffee chains than not are actually getting their coffee from an ingredient company that we could sell to. So we would basically be coming in as early in the supply chain as possible.
Got it. What is the biggest hurdle though in this kind of B2B partnerships that you mentioned? Do you face any challenge or any obstacles?
They have really stringent internal procedures about what the threshold to accept ingredients or IP licensing would be or not. And so we just need to provide them with all the information that they need to pass all their safety and regulatory approvals. And I think it's just getting through and surviving the length of the process. Selling B2B, that's difficult. And so that's something that we are focusing on over the next year or two, is understanding, okay, how can we solve a problem for the largest food and beverage businesses in the world, where instead of just creating products with a likely chance to launch in a year or two, which is always where they would like the conversation to go to. How can we shorten that to 6 months and sort of get to market as soon as possible? Because the problem that we're solving is so dire and they want to, but there's so many regulatory hurdles. And that's why it takes them 5+ years to launch their own products they're working on in R&D. It's really just because these are beasts of companies with a lot of regulatory hurdles. So of course we want to be as safe as possible, but how can we get to market as quickly as possible? Because we both want that. So that's I guess the big challenge in B2B.
Right. Is there a particular market that you are focusing on right now? Or because I saw that you recently expanded to Korea, right?
We're talking to some partners there. So in the same way, like expanding to Korea means that we're currently collaborating with many of the big FMCGs and coffee chains there, looking and working on creating a product together with hopes to launch in the next year. That is a key market for us in the same way Thailand is a key market for us. Australia would be a key market for us. And so there's a few key markets in the region, but we're really focused here in Asia in particular.
Okay. Is there a reason why you wanted to expand or maybe started in Korea instead of other countries regionally first?
We've been reacting to inbound mostly. So some big, if we hear that 4 or 5 big companies in Korea have come through inbound through a website, usually from my LinkedIn posts, we focus on that because that seems to be pretty demand-driven growth. The only reason that we have focused on the markets that we have focused on to date is because we get repeated inbound from those markets. So it seems as though something that they'd be interested in. Right.
So it's more of like where the market is pulling you, and then you just go to that.
I wouldn't say that our strength is for a strategy. I think that we're great executors and we listen to customers well, but we're not very strategic or high level thinkers. Like we basically make decisions based on if customers are asking for it or not.
Got it. You mentioned a lot of inbound came through LinkedIn. Is that your LinkedIn post?
Yeah.
I love your post though. Yeah, you have been posting a lot of interesting content and particularly the pictures they share. Sometimes I don't even know whether this is like the actual picture or not, or you guys actually edited, just like kind of like enlarge the bottles or hands and stuff like that. It's interesting to see the angle that you are taking. I'm just curious, like, what is the game that you're playing on LinkedIn here?
Sales.
Yeah, sales.
Just sales. Yeah, it's all sales.
Okay.
I wasn't planning on posting ever on LinkedIn until I realized that every time I put a post out, I would get inbound. And then almost all of our sales come through LinkedIn. So yeah, I'm not playing. So I guess the game that I'm playing, to answer your question directly, is as much reach as possible. Whatever it takes to reach as much for as long as whatever it takes to reach as big of an audience, as long as we are targeting the right segment, which we are in food and beverage. We're just continuing to try and grow that reach as well. It's all free, and we've got a bit of a playbook for it now that seems to be repeatable and working, so we're just kind of doubling down on it.
And what exactly is the playbook, if you don't mind sharing?
This is all, I don't think it's crazy insights on this, but on LinkedIn, there's the hook, there's the body, and then there's the image. The hook must be very intriguing. It can't give away the full story about what happened or what's happening. So it must be enough to intrigue them to click. And then the body must be it must be good enough for them to have clicked. So it can't be like the most clickbaity title ever and then some clickbaity body. It can be a clickbaity title so long as the body is something that is either entertaining or teaching them something in some way, adding some value. And then the image just needs to be entertaining enough where it sort of stops them in the tracks and stops them scrolling with like, whoa, what is that? So that's why we do like the super big bottles where you're not even sure if it's edited or not. And sometimes I'm not either. But it's really bright and it's almost like we're trying to Mr. Beast LinkedIn in a way. Yeah. And it's led to us getting like 1 million impressions a month or so at this point, but I think that we can be doing even more.
Right. So are you putting any like paid ads or running any ads right now for? Is everything through LinkedIn inbound?
I prefer we have not spent $1 on paid ads or anything like that.
Crazy, man. Yeah. Okay. And so I think you don't even have a marketing team, right now?
We do. Yeah, we have 2 people, amazing marketing people. yeah, I can go into how and why we built out that team and what they do. But yeah, we do have people on the marketing team, and that's pretty critical for us.
Okay. What does the marketing team do?
So we have two people on the marketing team. I would say one of them is more focused on sort of B2B and in partnerships. So, for example, when we make a new sale, we got a new partner, we're at a new location. They'll make sure that like we have great collateral at their stores. Make sure that we're making online design, online posts that's very aligned with our messaging and theirs. And so it's a lot to do with B2B. That also includes, as a bonus, trade shows as well. We've been doing a lot of trade shows recently that we do spend money on to have the booth and things like that. And that does always lead to a great ROI so far. So that's one of the people on the marketing team. The other person is really focused on sort of just getting the word out there. So creating videos, entertaining stuff on LinkedIn, entertaining stuff on TikTok, Instagram, more consumer facing, just to sort of get the buzz going and make sure that people are talking about it. So yeah, that's sort of what our marketing team do, and they work really closely together, and they create this awesome flywheel of ideas all the time. So yeah, I think it's important on a marketing team to have two people, so that it's not just like one person in their own creative world, but instead it's like a 1 + 1 = 3 thing, where we're coming up with great ideas together. And I'm not involved in the marketing ideas or anything like that. That's not really my day-to-day, but they're really awesome and have gained my trust throughout their time.
Lovely. How big is your team now, by the way?
12.
12. Wow. So for the first few hires, how do you prioritize, as a startup to hire the first 5 employees? What are the kind of traits that you were looking at back then? Or do you face any difficulties hiring the first 5?
It was basically like what we would do if we had more hands. So it wasn't like a strategic thing. It was like, what would we do if we had a lot more time on our hands? And it was R&D on DJ's side and myself on the marketing side. And those are sort of our first key hires. And then we continue to build the team out from there. So I guess I'm not answering your question directly because I think it'd be a boring answer just to list like our first top 5. But yeah, I guess it's just like the overall idea was to just hire for things that like if we had more time, we would do it. It's pretty straightforward.
And where do you find these people? LinkedIn?
Yeah, LinkedIn, warm network, especially on the R&D and production side. DJ has a great network of scientists and scale-up operators. And on the marketing side and sales side, we actually had some of our posts go pretty viral on LinkedIn, and they were getting sent around in Telegram groups. And yeah, we just tried to make the job post not boring, and that seemed to go pretty far for the modern person that's not looking just for like the most cookie cutter like JD ever. They want to see that this place has a bit of personality, and it'll be a place that ideally, if people look back and they're like, I spent 5-10 years at Prefer and it ended up being a huge success, they can have that as a great story for them to build on and for their careers down the road too.
Have you had anyone who joined your team but you realized that he or she wasn't the right fit?
Yeah, we've had 2 people leave Prefer for, I would say mostly due to culture, not fitting the culture that we try to create and foster. Nothing personal, and yeah, we're all good at both of them. But yeah, it just wasn't a great culture.
How do you handle that back then? Because I suppose it was kind of like a tough conversation. How do you handle when you realize that it wasn't the right fit culturally? Yeah, to still maintain the morale of the team. Yeah, the
team is fine. The team is always in both those cases totally fine. Team is good. The more sensitive aspect is with the actual person that would be leaving the company. So we would set up a meeting, maybe when we start to feel things are not going the way that we'd want it. So we'd say, hey, just so you know, we're seeing this. Would you agree? How can we make a plan to make this better? And then if it doesn't get better, then we'd have to have a conversation where, hey, we had this conversation, don't feel that it's going any better at this point, so have to let you go. In both cases, it was mutually agreed upon that they should move on. So it wasn't ever like, we think that you should leave, and then they say, no, here's why you're wrong. It's in both cases been, you're probably right, this isn't my place. And that's been totally fine.
So it's kind of like you told them the observation that you had, and then maybe have another period of, I don't know, window period to see whether there was any improvement.
Yeah, I'm not sure the exact time, but I think it's between 4 to 6 weeks to try and figure something out. And if we're not able to, then that's when that conversation to lead the company happens.
How did that experience, just out of curiosity, right? Like how did that experience change your interviewing or hiring playbook when you want to hire the next candidate to minimize, I don't know, maybe hiring the wrong people or maybe by asking the different questions during the interview to increase the likelihood of getting the right fit or what? Yeah. Or do you see that as more of like a try and error thing?
Yeah, I think that in the actual interview process, less questions about technical skills and things like that, more questions around culture fit, how they like to work, how hard they like to work, what they find interesting, what they do in their free time, just like, just getting to know them as a people and how they work. Skills can be learned, but making sure that this is a place where they're going to show up every day and put in as many hours as needed to get what needs to be done. That's super, just as important, if not more important. So that's A. And on the things outside of the interview is just taking references, referral calls really seriously, and making sure you get two, and being very prepared for those calls with specific questions that you're maybe concerned about for that candidate, and listening to them very clearly. And if you're getting red flags, listen to the red flags. Don't think that you can change that person, even though they say that this person could be, for example, this person could be tough to work with in a teamwork setting. Listen to that and dive into that and say, okay, what's been your experience in that? And know that they want to be honest with you and at least trust that they want to be honest with you. And listen to them seriously.
Do you see people management as one of the toughest job to you as a CEO of the company, or what do you think is the toughest job for you right now?
Yeah, I think management would be the toughest job for me if I gave it the time that it deserves. I'm honestly not. And I would consider myself more of like an external CEO. And I think that a lot of members of my team would feel that the relationship that I have with them is very trusting and almost like a distant, almost like I'm a slightly more distant. And that has led to people who work direct with me on sales and marketing to sort of be founders in their own right, and they're making decisions, and I sort of will check and make sure that everything is good before it goes out. But like a lot of their stuff is like they are doing it and I trust them, and they are able to work faster because they don't need to wait for me to like get my opinion on things. Of course, we make sure that it aligns with the greater mission and vision of the company, but at the end of the day, we're still like testing a bunch of different things, different value proposition pitches on the sales side, different marketing strategies to get the word out there. I'm just always trying to be thoughtful about what our overarching goals are, and if the sales and marketing strategies that we're implementing are testing the hypotheses that we want to test. That's really it, so we can learn what we need to.
Got it. Well, talking about the marketing side of things, I'm just trying to learn more about that because I saw one of your recent posts on LinkedIn. I think you make 2 posts or 1 post about the guerrilla marketing tactics that you use. That I think went pretty viral, that basically you put the empty bottles of Preferred on some recycling bins in the CBD area, particularly in the high traffic areas. How do you come up with this idea? So this first. Second is, what is the most counterintuitive lesson you have learned about growth on a budget?
The whole idea of putting the empty bottles on trash cans was just about the idea that if people prefer empty in a trash can, it makes it look like people are drinking it. And if you put it in high traffic areas, then it looks like prefer is everywhere. So I would just go around putting bottles on recycling bins. And that was just me and trying to create some buzz around. And that actually was working quite well. We would see sales increase the more that we would do that. So it was directly correlated. The way that I thought about that was very simple. I just looked up online using AI as well, just like give me the 100 most creative guerrilla marketing tactics that people have used for consumer packaged good companies, and just went through the list. And this one seemed the most fun and potentially actually impactful in the business as well. I just sort of used AI as a brainstorming partner to come up with these ideas. I do that for a lot of things. So yeah, that, and then in terms of what is some counterintuitive things that I've learned, was that the next question?
Yes.
Counterintuitive things that I've learned about marketing is you can study trends and you can study what's happening online all you want, but it does come down to a significant amount of luck. And a lot of it is random about what goes viral. And you can learn what gives you the best chance of luck, but at the end of the day, a lot of time it is luck. And so you continue just like to keep working towards what gives you the best chance of falling into this beautiful net of going viral. But yeah, some of it is out of your control.
Well, I love that, right? Because luck is definitely important, right? I'm just trying to think, because you mentioned you have this AI to help you brainstorm the creative ideas to run marketing, give you a list of things, right? The thing I'm just thinking is, out of this list of things that you can do, how do you even select or decide, oh, these are the top 3 that I'm going to try, these are the top 5 I'm going to try to maximize my luck? Is there a framework or a gauge that you use to decide what to do or what to try?
For this, no. I just picked my top 1 and tested it, and I'll go back and do it again and test another one. The one that I picked just happened to be a good hit. But yeah, the only way to actually learn is to go test it and try it out in the marketing. Like with marketing, the only way to learn is to test it, especially with marketing. There's other things like in R&D, it's very different. But yeah, with marketing, you just have to go to the market and try.
Cool. Are you still testing any other guerrilla marketing tactics besides the trash can, that one?
We'll be launching a new product, a can, and we can really start to scale our B2B2C business in hotels, restaurant chains, and pantries. So I think we'll do some more aggressive in-person marketing tactics.
Right. And that's gonna remain a secret now, or you're not gonna reveal it here?
A couple of things that we're planning to do for the product that we're about to launch. So one of them would be, actually it's more of a sales tactic, but you can go in and see Google reviews of coffee shops or retailers, stuff like that. And you can see and you can keyword search for specific things that people would leave as bad reviews. Basically, like, I wish that this place had an option that was like dairy free, or the coffee here was expensive, or something like that. And so we can highlight or screenshot the repeated complaints that people have about places and basically focus on how our product helps to solve that problem for their customer. So it's sort of like data for them to see this is what customers are complaining about, and this allows you to solve that problem. But it's quite aggressive in the tactics, and that you're sort of like pushing their problems in their face. But it also, that is selling, right? You have to share what their problem is and show that you have a solution for that. So that's something that we're starting to integrate into our sales process, and it's actually been working pretty well so far.
But it is pretty creative and interesting, really.
Yeah. And then obviously there's just like, with access to AI, you get access to incredible amounts of data. And if for our B2B sales process, we are creating unique market reports and customer reports for them, how they would integrate Prefer into which exact products and how it would help to decrease their costs and drive revenue. So we're able to create reports that would otherwise take a thesis student 3 months to do in 30 minutes and integrate that as part of our B2B sales cycle so that it seems even more designed and catered for each of our key customers. So yeah, that's something else that we're doing on the sales and marketing side.
Love it. Okay. Probably just maybe zoom out a bit, look at the highest level, right? Looking back at your journey, what is the toughest moment in your entire journey building Prefer? Or is that a product flop, team decision, or maybe a near-death experience that you haven't really talked about publicly before?
Near-death experience, when we raised the $2 million, like the headline says Prefer raises $2 million from a bunch of awesome VCs, which they are, and which we did. But I mean, behind the scenes, like that was our last month of runway. We weren't going to make payroll the next month. I remember walking around Marina Bay Sands, just like hat down, like I had like a shirt over my head. I was just like crying, walking around, just like this is over. And yeah, you just have these moments throughout the process, but then next thing you know, money gets wired, you get $2 million, you get runway for a couple more years, and you get back to building. So yeah, I think that's probably the hardest moment we had so far.
Was investors aware of the situation back then?
Yeah, we were just trying to get them. Yeah, just trying to get them to wire as quickly as possible.
What would happen if the money wasn't wired in time to the bank, to you guys? Now, what's the worst case scenario that you plan out back then? If shit really happened, when money didn't come in time.
Company shuts. You run out of money, company shuts
Yeah.
down. If you don't have money, you can't keep the show on the road. So yeah, that was the alternative.
Okay. No, I thought you might have some, I don't know, like plan B or something.
For prefer, I mean,
Yeah.
if we're not able to go out and raise money to keep the show on the road, then
Yeah.
that's where the show ends. But yeah, I mean, that seems like the end of life as well for any founder. For me at least, if I were to die, it would feel like a life and death thing. But yeah, that's that would be the end of the show for us.
No, it's the same, yeah. I mean, back then when I first started with Fred, right, we were also trying to raise, but we couldn't raise during that period. That's why we shut it down. I think the period was the darkest one in my life.
Yeah,
the 2 to 3 months period.
I'm sure.
After all these years of building Prefer, what would you say are the biggest? Do you mind sharing maybe 3 biggest mistakes that you make, or maybe 2 when building Prefer? Yeah.
So 2 major buckets that come to mind.
Yeah.
1 is team and 2 is money.
Mm-hmm.
So 1 is team, and the biggest mistake that we've made, and I mentioned this earlier, is just not focusing on the right things in the hiring process. So maybe over-hiring based on skills and under-hiring based on culture fit. So going forward, we really do focus on the culture fit, and that's not to say that we give massages to the team and stuff like that. It's not like that sort of culture.
Mm-hmm.
And we're more looking for people who just want to double down with us, do the work, have fun, come into the office. But this is like an obsession, and we want to make sure that everyone is fully bought in. And so that's really important for us in the hiring process. 2 is on money. We work in hardware. We were building physical things, and building physical things takes money. So just being very thoughtful about what you're spending money on, because when building hardware and having an important part of your business being R&D, it's easy to spend money fast. So just being very thoughtful about what are the things that you are trying to learn and what is the most affordable way to learn that, and have that be sort of your template for making decisions on what you're spending money on for hardware in particular.
And would you say that because you're running basically more of like a hardware company, would you say your skill will be limited based on the commercial facility that you are having? That's why you are trying to focus more on licensing the IP to fix this scalability issue?
So the reason that IP licensing is becoming a stronger part of the sales conversation is just like everything I said in the past, just customers ask for it. Customers are demanding it. So I'm really simple. As a business person, I listen to customers and make sure that we can provide what they need and provide a solution to their problems, so long as it follows the mission of the company. It's very, very simple how we make decisions on the sales and commercial side. So yeah, that's sort of why we are now planning to license IP, is because we found that this was, first of all, requested by the customer, and secondly, seems to be an even bigger win-win. That said, yes, as a hardware business, we are constrained by the amount of money that we have to build the scale that we can. So that means that we can only access, say, mid-tier, in terms of size, large FMCG companies. With another level of scale from another fundraising round, we can access even larger FMCG companies. Or we can just go ahead and license them the IP that we have built out today. And that allows us to be more CapEx light and not have to raise as much money and own more of the company. And at the end of the day, make more money from an exit and all go off into the sunshine. And that helps to retain talent, is telling that story about how we are building a company that we do plan to make generational wealth off of, have a huge impact, and at the end of the day, be a great stepping stone to continue doing whatever it is in your life or your career that you would like to do. Prefer will be a huge positive mark on your journey along the way.
I love the fact that you keep circling back to listening to customers, because whenever I ask about, why are you doing this, or why do you do something, do you have some thought or strategy behind? But a common pattern that I always see is you always circle back to listening to customers, right? What they want, and then you just deliver that. That's all.
Never would claim to be the smartest guy, but I definitely like to listen to customers and talk to customers, and I think that's pretty valuable in a business, especially when we're building out a product that has never been made before. You really have to go in with an open mind and really hear what the value propositions are and what problems that we're solving for them.
Do you face any pushback? I understand, you have some inbound customers are asking for something. Do you face any like rejection or pushback when pitching customers or stuff like that? What are common pushback or rejection that you face?
Yeah, so like you mentioned earlier with baristas and specialty coffee, that's not our customer. We get pushback from that segment, that maybe like top 1 to 5% of the coffee market, where we're not solving a problem for them. They're okay to buy coffee for whatever price because they can sell it for whatever price. So they are basically like, get out of our business, get out of our industry, you're not needed. But that's okay because we're not solving their problem. Our market is the 95% of coffee drinkers who are in it for the price and the taste and the caffeine, not the 5% of the very top specialty coffee drinkers who are sort of drinking it because of the specific notes it has or where the beans come from. And I like that coffee too. But yeah, the problem that we're solving is not for that specific segment.
But they are not your target audience anyway, right? Because you are focusing on an entirely different market. After all these years, if someone wants to build a new climate tech startup today, right? What is the one piece of advice you would give to them before they start? Or rather also one trap to avoid? One piece of advice, one trap to avoid.
First of all, I would understand their reasons behind wanting to build a climate-related company. If the reason is to do with thinking that it's an industry where you can make a lot of money, I would advise against it. Easier to make money building an AI startup, just go do that. If there is really an impact-driven reason and basically this feeling like there's nothing else you can work on because you feel like it's the only problem that you want to solve, get into it. And there's huge potential reward at the end of that, but it's not a short-term game. It's a really long-term game. And I've made the decision with myself, I'll be working on something to do with fighting climate change for the rest of my life and prefers my way to do that. So yeah, however long this takes, I'm here for the ride. And what about the one trap to avoid for those who want to start in the climate tech? Yeah, you mentioned the importance of having a strong why. But what about those who are just getting started? What would you advise them to avoid? I would avoid starting a climate company if there is not a real customer need or demand for it. There's a lot of amazing climate technologies that literally never get out of the lab because customers never asked for it. It was just academics that thought that it would be a cool idea and it could benefit the world. And I'm sure that it could. And if there's not someone that would buy it and scale it up at scale, then you're not having any impact at all. It's just a project that is getting stuck in a lab. So if you want to run a business that creates climate impact at scale, which is why I would hope that you'd get into a climate tech business, make sure that there's real customer demand for it and make sure that there's actually a problem to solve. 100%. I mean, what you said just reminds me of all the academic labs in other universities in Singapore, particularly. They have a lot of different climate tech projects or research that they are working on. But I do see that a lot of them actually face the difficulty to commercialize what they have. Yeah, totally. And I love and respect academia. And I just want for there to be more emphasis on actually having impact from the technology that's being created. So yeah, I think that it's a little bit, I sound a little bit like anti-academia. I'm totally not. I just wish that people would think about scale and customers while they're doing the research as well, so that the impact can be made. 100%. Well, thanks so much for sharing all these wisdom and golden nuggets, man. I mean, before we end this, where do people can, find you online if they want to follow up with you on something, or maybe they want to look for you to partner up, or maybe become your customers. Who knows, right? Yeah. Yeah. So when will this come out, this episode? This one will be coming out sometime in June because cool. I do have a few others, yeah. So yeah, if you're here in Singapore, we are all over the island. If you go to our website, prefer.coffee, please do go to one of our partner locations to try it. Or we are online as well on the website. So yeah, please do give it a try. If you are in food and beverage, working at a large FMCG, coffee chain, ingredient company. We would love to help solve the problem of the rising price of coffee. We are not here to disrupt the industry. We're here to support the industry and basically allow you to create a more affordable and more sustainable product for your customers. So yeah, I think that's my main call outs. Thanks for giving me a chance to sell a little bit.
No problem, man. And where can people find you the best? Is that LinkedIn or email or?
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn. I'm posting on there all the time with updates. And if you prefer Instagram or TikTok, we're just at Prefer Coffee SG.
Love it. Thanks so much for sharing, man. Appreciate your time here. I think that's all for our podcast today. Thanks so much for sharing your journey. And thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Appreciate you.